16 years ago, in a small countryside hospital, 3 newborn babies were left behind in the maternity ward. What made this abandonment extraordinary wasn't just that they were triplets, it was that these 3 beautiful black children had been born to white parents who simply walked away, leaving behind only questions that would haunt the hospital staff for years to come. The night shift at Countryside General Hospital was typically quiet. Nurse Margaret had been working the maternity ward for over 20 years, and she thought she'd seen everything. But nothing could have prepared her for what happened on that cold February evening in 2009. A young white couple had arrived in obvious distress. The woman was in advanced labor, and there was no time for lengthy check-ins or paperwork. Within hours, she had given birth not to 1 baby, but to 3. Triplets. Beautiful, healthy triplets, with soft brown skin and bright, curious eyes. The medical staff was amazed. Each baby possessed a gentle brown complexion that stood in clear contrast to their parents' pale skin. It was unusual, certainly, but genetics can be wonderfully surprising. Mixed heritage from previous generations can emerge in unexpected ways, creating beautiful combinations that tell stories of family histories stretching back through time. The babies were perfect. Kayla, the firstborn, was calm and observant. Elena, arriving just minutes later, was energetic from her very first breath. David, the youngest, by mere minutes, seemed to study everything around him with intense curiosity. For the first day, everything seemed normal. The parents appeared tired but attentive, as new parents of triplets should be. But by the second morning, something felt wrong. Nurse Margaret arrived for her shift to find an empty room where the family should have been. The babies were there, sleeping peacefully in their hospital cribs, but the parents were gone. Not just stepped out for coffee or a quick walk, gone completely, with all their belongings. The hospital staff was stunned. In 24 hours, 3 innocent children had gone from being welcomed into the world to being abandoned by the very people who brought them into existence. The only trace left behind was the sound of 3 babies who would soon wake up crying for parents who would never return. The hospital immediately contacted social services, but questions swirled through everyone's minds. What had happened? Was it the shock of having triplets? The surprise of their appearance? Or something deeper: fear, prejudice, or simply being overwhelmed by circumstances they felt unprepared to handle? Dr. Sarah Chen, the pediatrician on duty, spent extra time with the babies that day. "You beautiful children," she whispered to them. "Someone is going to love you exactly as you are. This isn't the end of your story. It's just the beginning." Social services worked tirelessly to find placement for the triplets. 3 babies at once was challenging enough, but 3 babies with a story that had already captured the attention of local news made it even more complex. Applications poured in from families wanting to help, but caseworker Linda Rodriguez knew she needed to find something special. "These children need more than just a home," Linda explained to her supervisor. "They need a family that will help them understand their story, embrace their identity, and prepare them for the questions they'll face as they grow up." Week after week, potential families came and went. Some were put off by the commitment required for triplets. Others seemed uncomfortable with the circumstances of the children's birth. But Linda refused to settle for anything less than perfect. Then, 6 weeks after the babies had been abandoned, she got a call that would change everything. James and Patricia Miller had been trying to have children for 8 years. They had endured fertility treatments, miscarriages, and the slow heartbreak of watching their dreams of parenthood slip away, month after month. When they heard about the triplets, something inside both of them knew this was meant to be. "We don't see 3 abandoned babies," Patricia told Linda during their first meeting. "We see 3 children who were waiting for us, just like we were waiting for them." James, a teacher, and Patricia, a nurse, had spent years preparing themselves emotionally and financially for parenthood. Their house had an extra bedroom that had sat empty for years, but it was big enough for 3 cribs. Their hearts had space that had been waiting to be filled. More importantly, they had something many couples lacked: a deep understanding that love creates family, not biology. Patricia's own brother had been adopted, and she had grown up seeing how belonging is built through daily acts of care, not genetic connections. The adoption process moved quickly. By spring, when the babies were 3 months old, they were home with the Millers. Kayla, Elena, and David finally had parents who wanted them not in spite of their story, but because of the incredible resilience they had already shown in their short lives. As the children grew, their personalities became even more distinct. Kayla remained thoughtful and observant, often sitting quietly and watching the world around her. Elena was a whirlwind of energy, racing around the house with crayons and leaving scribbles on walls that her parents secretly treasured. David was endlessly curious, taking apart toys to see how they worked and asking why about everything. The Miller household was full of laughter, chaos, and love. Friends and neighbors often commented on how naturally the family seemed to fit together. But as the children got older, questions inevitably arose. "Why don't we look like you and Dad?" 5-year-old Elena asked one day during dinner. Patricia had been preparing for this moment for years. "Because," she said gently, "families are made in different ways. You 3 were born to people who weren't ready to be parents, but you were always meant to be our children. We just had to wait a little while to find each other." "But why didn't they want us?" David pressed, his curious nature unable to let the subject go. James leaned forward. "Sometimes people make decisions when they're scared or confused. We can't know what was in their hearts, but we can know what's in ours, and our hearts are full of love for you 3. As the triplets entered their teenage years, the questions became more complex. They were old enough now to understand the unusual circumstances of their birth and to feel the weight of being the triplets who were abandoned. Kayla, now 16 and still the quiet observer, began researching genetics and heredity. She wanted to understand how 3 black children could be born to white parents. Her research led her to fascinating discoveries about genetic inheritance, dormant genes, and the beautiful complexity of human ancestry. Elena channeled her energy into social justice work at school, becoming passionate about adoption rights and support for children in foster care. She organized fundraisers and spoke at school assemblies about the importance of loving families in all their forms. David's curiosity had evolved into a passion for storytelling. He interviewed his parents extensively, documenting their journey to parenthood and the early days of their adoption. He wanted to preserve their story, all of it, including the painful beginning that had led to their beautiful life together. On their 16th birthday, James and Patricia sat the triplets down for a conversation they had been planning for months. "We want you to know," Patricia began, "that we've always been honest with you about your story. But now that you're older, we want to make sure you have all the information you might need." She handed them a folder containing all the official records from their adoption, including the hospital reports from the night they were born and the social services documentation from their placement. "Your birth parents' names were Sarah and Michael Thompson," James explained. "We've never tried to contact them, but we have their information if you ever decide you want to." Kayla spoke first. "Do you think they ever wonder about us?" "I hope they do," Patricia said honestly. "I hope they know you grew up loved and happy." Elena was more direct. "Are you worried we'll try to find them and love them more than you?" Both parents smiled. James answered, "Love isn't a limited resource. If you choose to find them someday, it won't take away from our family. It might just make your understanding of yourself more complete." The triplets spent months processing this information. They talked among themselves, with their parents, and with a family counselor who specialized in adoption issues. In the end, they reached a decision together. "We want to write them a letter," David announced one evening. "Not to start a relationship, but to let them know we're okay. In case they've been wondering all these years." Patricia and James supported this decision completely. Together, the family crafted a careful letter that was sent through the adoption agency. It included a recent photo of the triplets and a simple message. "We wanted you to know that we grew up loved and happy. We hope you found peace with your decision. With gratitude for the life you gave us, Kayla, Elena, and David Miller. They never received a response, and they were okay with that. Today, the Miller family continues to thrive. The triplets are excelling in their final years of high school, each pursuing their own passions while maintaining the close bond they've shared since birth. Kayla plans to study genetics in college, fascinated by the science of heredity and hoping to help other families understand their own complex stories. Elena is headed for social work, determined to advocate for children in need of families. David wants to study journalism, driven by his love of storytelling and his desire to share stories of resilience and hope. Their parents watch with pride as their children prepare to leave for college. The babies who were left behind in a hospital 16 years ago have grown into confident, compassionate young adults who understand that family is defined not by the circumstances of your birth, but by the love that surrounds you as you grow. You know what the most amazing part of your story is? Patricia told them recently. It's not that you were adopted. It's not even that you survived being abandoned. The most amazing part is how you've taken all of that and turned it into strength, compassion, and purpose. The triplets no longer the abandoned babies from the maternity ward, but rather the beloved children of the Miller family are living proof that sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most extraordinary lives. Their story reminds us that family is not about where you come from, but about where you belong. And sometimes the children who seem to have the least promising starts in life are the ones who grow up to make the biggest difference in the world. The bright, boundless road ahead awaits them, and they're ready to travel it together, just as they always have as siblings, as Millers, and as living proof that love makes family. Don't forget to subscribe for more interesting stories like this every day.